Hello, everybody. This is Anthony for Investors Underground. Today, I have the opportunity to speak to a trading and finance veteran in Mr. Russell Valenti. His career spans over 25 years as both a financial advisor and trader. He's also a father, a husband, a genuine philanthropist, and an advocate for the trials and tribulations of trading. You can follow him on Twitter at Russell Valenti. Hi, Russell. Thank you for being here to take the time to speak with me today.
Hey, Anthony, no problem. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me too.
Oh, absolutely. Russell, there's so much that I want to ask you, but for those who aren't already familiar with you, I'd love to be able to give them a chance to hear directly from you about your history and how you got interested in finance, stocks, investing, and the market.
Great question. Um, Probably when I was, I got to say, I was probably 14, 15 years old. I'm 58 years old now. So I'm going to date myself. Um, my dad was a stockbroker, financial advisor, and he would come home from the office and he'd have these chart books, daily graph books. I think they would come every week or 2 weeks, and there was nothing online, there was no internet, and he would sit there and chart and look through these books. And I'd always, ask him, Dad, what are you doing? What are these? And I just thought, I used to like to just hang out, just look at these things. He goes, this is what I do, but I look at these. These are my guide. These are the insight to companies. And so there was always somewhat of an interest, but it didn't start out that way for me because I was high school, then I went to college for a year, and I just college just wasn't for me. I was always used to start, working every summer. 14 years old, I worked. There was maybe a week vacation with the family, but I worked from 8 in the morning till 6 at night. At 14, our family had a wholesale produce business, so I was used to getting up at 3 in the morning, going and working 12 hours a day all summer long. And for minimum wage, I was getting overtime. So, I was used to, I knew that business. And so every summer, high school, I would do that. And that's where I got my foundation of really hard work. And so I would say it was probably my first year in college. I was struggling. I was kind of enjoyed the partying aspect of college. I was at Santa Fe Junior College, right outside in Gainesville. My goal was to get into the University of Florida. After a year, it wasn't for me. I just, it wasn't, school wasn't my thing. I love money though. I mean, money was my thing. So I came back, worked in the family produce business, which I purchased, had enough money saved. I purchased half the business from my dad, and my uncle owned the other half. So, I was, making 22,000 a year, and I was driving trucks. We'd sell to school systems, hotels, hospitals, and I was doing that. So I was never scared of getting my hands dirty or hard work. And one day I was always reading the newspaper about stocks, and there were a lot of local companies, and there was one that every day I wouldn't talk to my dad about it. I just it plotted out, and I was like, God, this goes up every day. I have a little bit of money saved, so it turned out it was Home Shopping Network. And so my dad was a stockbroker. I called him up, and he never pushed stocks on me. That was just never his thing. So I started that aspect, and he says, well, I said, I have this much money, and it might have been $1,000. So I said, I want to buy $1,000 worth, and he tries to talk me out of it, and said, why don't you take $500? I did it, and made some money. I think I made $600, and I was kind of hooked. And I was thinking, wow, this is very interesting to me. I had a couple more, so it was, beginner's luck, whatever it was. And that's, I didn't understand anything. He would guide me saying, I think you should sell some of this. However, I got involved. I got sick of getting up at 2 a.m. and being in that industry. And when I was 20, probably 21 years old, I was, my ex-brother-in-law was a financial advisor, and he worked in the same office as my dad. He was making all this money, and he was great at biotechs, and he understood them. He could talk biotechs, and he showed me a chart of what he goes, look at this. It was Amgen, and I'll never forget this. He goes, wow. He made $4,000 ago. So he goes, you need to get into this industry. And so the next day I went over to my dad's house and I said, Dad, I think I want to make a change. I said, I'm tired of the wholesale produce business and dealing with just, truck drivers wouldn't show up, just the everyday grind. And he says, well, this is not an easy industry. So he said, fine. And he said to me, I think you can make a living. And I was a little disturbed by that because I didn't think he had enough faith in me. So I said to myself, I think I can do okay because I'm just going to work hard. I was used to that hard work. He says it's a different type industry. You're dealing with people with money. So got in there, started with Prudential Securities in 1990, 92, 93. And, taking Series 7 was hard. I studied like I'd never studied before, cram course, got in, and there I was. And so I had, to me, the best mentor because my dad was a technical, fundamental trader, and more so technical on the heavy side. I mean, terrific. He's 88 years old now. He still trades to this day. Swing trading, a little slower, but he still trades. And so I think I got in at the perfect time. I just had, that's when Starbucks came public, Snapple. I remember, and there was something visual about a chart that for me, because I was diagnosed when I was younger with a learning disability. And, I should do manual labor, I was labeled. And the chart spoke to me, Anthony, in a way that I could just see something different in these charts. And my dad would show, and I'd ask it'd drive him crazy, ask him a lot of questions, why, what, and where. And, it slowly just started coming to me. And then I had an account with $5,000, so it went to $10,000. And, I grew it before I had an account with $20,000. And I said, this is for me. And then, I was getting clients, and, the aspect of that was interesting because I didn't mind the selling aspect, but I enjoyed the trading aspect. And slowly, as I got better and better, and then, 95, 96, it was a start of, and I remember it, Spyglass, Netscape. I remember the names like it was yesterday. That was the start of the .com era. And to me, it's still one of the greatest eras. I know people will talk about COVID, and COVID was tremendous. But .com, it was big. It was a big, and I thought I was real smart. And my dad used to put me in my place quite a bit.
Well, you look great for your age. I think everybody sitting down in front of a computer wishes they can say the same at your age. Setting that aside for a minute, I think it's also amazing that your father was the one who sort of introduced you to the world of trading and stocks, and so I was going to ask, do you think, having him as a mentor what allowed you to cut down the learning curve of stocks, at a time where you couldn't just jump on YouTube or ask your favorite trader a question on Twitter or something like that. You had sort of in-house, a teacher, a mentor. So what was that like? I know you said that he was, a fundamental technical trader. Were you able to just ask him questions at any time and get, direct answers? What was all of that like? And did he give you any advice in those early days that you still find tremendously useful and valuable today?
Yes, quite a bit. And I have a lot of trading journals, and my wife even loves, she wants some of my dad's quotes, even now. She wants them. And, it's interesting because they all hold true to this day. So, yes, I sat right next to him, and he was phenomenal. He just knew. We were probably a little bit. Became different traders, because I found my way. Um, he was great. I could pick his brain, and he would tell me the reason why. There was little just shortcuts he gave me, and to this day, when someone will tweet something, I can reflect on certain things that he said. I'm like, they don't know what they're talking about, and not being disrespectful, And sometimes I don't like to chime in on Twitter that much unless I'm being funny, smart ass. It's just that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, he was like terrific. But one of his during the .com boom, I all of a sudden I was making a lot of money for clients, and trading was my thing. That wasn't that's not the typical Wall Street firm. It's to gather assets under management, and that at that time you could still charge commissions, and now that's it's a whole different industry. But yeah, it was it was great. I had two styles, and they worked effectively, and for a long time until they didn't work. And I looked at my dad, and he was telling me it's going to stop. Your style is going to stop because when the music stops, make sure you have a seat to sit down in because it will. And he always saved me his advice from blowing up an account, and because I couldn't blow up clients' account, and I would trade clients a lot how I would do myself, and it wasn't day trading because they frowned on that kind of stuff. It was I was more of a short-term swing trader. Um, one of the things my dad always says, and I always relate this to people, just they said, this is a great company. Why is this going up or why is it going down? And one of the best things he ever told me was, all these are moving dots. You're just trying to capture money out of them. They're just a moving dot. And once it kind of hit me where that was true. It was just, I looked at it very objectively, like I would trade anything, and I wasn't loyal to holding a stock. I wasn't loyal to anything. I'll sell houses to this day. I have different investments. I'm not loyal to them. I could take a loss, and I won't bat an eye. Gain, loss, and so he really instilled a lot of that, the foundation for me. But he did say one of the. I think I know the saying is still around. Um, don't confuse a genius with a bull market. I believe it was. And he goes, "You're no genius." And I said, I said, "I've come a long way. I thought I was pretty smart." He goes, "You're smart. You've learned a lot, but you've never seen a bad market that'll rip your ass up." And he was right. And he said, "Save your money. Save your old, Italian man. Save your money." And I saved. I saved. Just I should have saved a lot more. But you're in your 20s. You're having a good time. You think you're invincible. And so, I there's a lot of different stuff that I could, if I pull up my journals and I tell my wife, and she's just like, but it holds true. The psychology, there's so much I can touch on that maybe we can touch on and still that I use personally.
So it sounds like he was definitely a voice of reason in a very bull market, which is, I mean, invaluable advice. I think for that time, for someone to be able to tell you that we're essentially, this is a great time for things to be going up. It won't always be like this. I think that
Right.
alone is significant advice for someone, especially like you said, in their 20s. And so maybe we could touch on that for a bit,
Absolutely.
about just trading at that time, because I know you had said you were, advising, you were a financial advisor, so there's that component to what you were doing, and then there was also the trading aspect. If we can touch on the trading aspect for just a minute, at that time, what type of setups were you looking for? I know you had mentioned like, home shopping network, and but like in the height of the .com boom, what was like the setup that you looked for, your A+ setup that was extremely profitable, and what happened when that didn't work anymore, and how were you able to adapt?
Well, during the dot-com boom, when I tell you what my trading setup was, my normal trading setup was, he always reiterated, the trend is your friend. Up or down, the trend is your friend. And it still holds true today. And, primarily, off of earnings, something would gap up. Those stocks were just, I did study a lot of stocks. And by the way, I did want to touch on this. I started so early that there was no, even at Prudential Securities, there was no typing an order online. Okay, you had to physically write a manual ticket. I was lucky enough because I was an advisor, so I'd write a ticket. You'd have to go down the hall, drop it to a wire operator, and whether it's a limit market, however you trade. So it was totally different. And then once they started, you could do some stuff through, they had their own servers and you could do some things. I was like, wow, this is really great. And if you wanted any size, I would call the trader. And, there was just a lot of different aspects to it. But getting back to that, what my setup was, a lot of anything that gapped up. I love trading IPOs. I mean, I've traded IPOs for years. Kind of gotten a little bit away from them last 2 or 3 years. Now trade them, and I'll describe how I do things now later. But that was one of the things that I was very good at that. I would get the basic fundamentals, what they do. I didn't look at the numbers, how much it was more about, are they growing, what's their growth. But the .com really ruined my learning. I didn't grow when I was learning how to trade, because the money was, when I say easy, that's where I think it was different from COVID to the .com. If something was an IPO that came, I just get a list of IPOs, and if it said, and I remember Amazon, I can remember a lot of these companies came from, but if it just said uh, .com. Okay, I would literally, I would short occasionally. It was just, I would literally just, when it went up 10 cents over the offer and it said .com, you know what? I could see on a chart basis, it was just building steam, a lot of sideways movement. And I said, I would just build positions for clients too. For clients, for myself, I'd build, I'm like, I have 5 stocks and these are, I would load my account up, to much of dismay of my dad. But I go, this is going to work. He goes, and then he kind of got on that. I said, .com, 10 cents above the offer, and it would run $20, $30 in a day, and maybe for 2 or 3 days. And so, I'm sitting there, I'm 26, 27 at the time, and I'm thinking to myself, after my own account, I'm making 30, 40, 50 grand a day. Okay. And so there wasn't, at that time, I would sell clients, I would sell myself. It wasn't like now they're so strict on apparently, and I understand, the regulations of the client has to get a better price, but there was none of that. It was just, the clients, they didn't care about paying commissions, and it was always how much money you're going to make me, and that was it. I didn't worry about. I paid my taxes, and I was just grateful that I was making a lot of money in my 20s, and it kept on for, it was irrational for, I think of March of 2000 when it finally topped out. And my dad used to tell me, it's coming. It's coming. And he says, I've seen this, maybe not to this extreme, but it will end. And I used to go, yeah, it can get bad. You think you know something. You think you're invincible. It can get bad. But I said, Dad, how bad can it be? He goes, well, I'll tell you what. You're going to see 80 to 90% of these .coms go from, and Amazon was, I don't know, I'm $300. It's split, went down to 5. He says you're going to see them. Most of them go to single digits. And either they're going to go out of business or they'll reinvent themselves, and that's what they'll do. So, it was just great. It was a crazy time, and it lasted. And then when it stopped, the breakouts weren't working, and that's when I had to learn. I said, these breakouts aren't working, and he says, you don't see it. He says the environment's changed, and that was a hard pill for me to swallow, because I was making, besides fees, commissions, I was making a lot from my own account, and I was always good. He trained me what to do with my money outside of, growing accounts for yourself. But I just I went. I've always had, knock on wood, always had a profitable year every single year until 2000, and I ended up down like $42,000 because the breakouts weren't working, and I didn't understand, like, this is not working. So, first learning thing. It didn't blow up an account, but I wish I would have saved more money at the time. I had good, he coached me very well. He goes, now the learning begins. And so, at that time, I remember people used to criticize Warren Buffett. He's lost his edge. He's a brick and mortars guy. And, it's just interesting. I've heard some of the same stuff about him years. And here again, his time frame, my time frame, we're two separate people. Even to this day, I don't follow what billionaires do, but yeah, it's that was my first lesson.
When the market stopped, you said in 2000, March about 2000.
March about 2000, roughly.
When the market stopped, and the environment had changed, as your dad had mentioned, the environment's going to change. When things did change, how did you find yourself adapting to the market? And were you more of a short seller at that time, or were you just stay on the sidelines and wait for the environment to sort of clear up, to start buying stocks again? And how did you adapt and get ready for the change in market?
Well, I mean, I slowly, I was always good at taking a loss. I was always very partial to IPOs. So I was always, I had a list of IPOs, and even if they weren't .com, some were working. I was swapping a lot of dollars, and it just, then I would get frustrated, and I would seek his advice, and he says, "You're not patient enough with stocks. That fast money," and I don't know exactly when he goes, that's over with. He goes, it's because he used to tell me when it's over, it's over. And one of the funny things, Anthony, is I said, well, what's going to stop it? And to this day, it sounds, I'll say this, and people they give me an eye roll. And he goes, it's simple. You're going to just run out of buyers. And I used to go, I mean, even I had the eye roll to him. And he said, no. He goes, and that's where that's why I'm so partial. I'm all technical. I know some basic, the fundamentals. I'll read a little bit. It just all depends on what I'm trying to accomplish with a trade even today. However, I was, I just, it just wasn't working. And he said, you've never seen a bad market. Now it'll get more where it's normal. So, I was able to pick up, all of a sudden money started flowing into, the Warren Buffett stocks, Procter and Gamble's, the Walmarts, whatever he was in at the time. And I was like, well, this is a little too slow for me. I was impatient. I wanted fast. And I think, I was able always to cut my losses, but I was swapping dollars. And he goes, you're not adjusting. And I probably had a little too much pride asking, like, what? He goes, you got to be patient. It's all changed. And my patience at that time wasn't great. I was young. You have that, you think you're king, and it changes. And so, that was the first lesson, to change with the times. And so, yes, I was shorting some, if something had a gap down on bad earnings, that maybe you'd have a gap fill. And I knew just, basic stuff that he taught me, okay, you can go short the stock. And, he taught me about, there's gaps come in multiple gaps, when you have these running gaps. And I don't see a lot. I think Netflix I saw this year, but he goes, once that changes, he goes, you have, whether it's analysts, I don't listen to a lot of analysts. To me, from even to this day, there's nothing they can say to me. I'm not saying they're way smarter than me, but it's not, every trade is on me. And so, I just have a different way of doing things. And I respect guys and women who trade, very fundamental. I was very good at I became good at trading small caps, micro caps, small caps on the long side. And where now I'm horrible. Just complete opposite, of what I was and what I am now. I don't want that, Doesn't mean I don't dabble in it every now and then, because I like to get out of my comfort range. Definitely.
So let's say from around 2000 to, let's just say 2022, where we are now. In that span of time, what have you really seen in terms of like the market change due to high frequency trading, algorithms, and how does the recent bull market, whether it's from like 2010 to 2020 or even from like COVID, there was a bit of a bull market that happened. How do those bull markets compare to the dot com period, which you were able to trade?
Yeah, one of the things my dad used to tell me, even through the dot com, the 9/11, which was crazy, but even 9/11, horrific event, but there was a way to capitalize. It was the security stocks. I mean, some of them were probably still around, mags, and so I would trade these things, and I felt bad capitalizing on such a tragic event. But here again, I'm a trader mentality. Um, you're just like, what happens? You're sitting there. I go in my office. Clients are calling like, what do we do? What do we do? They wanted to sell everything when the market. I don't know if it was 5 days, 7 days. I can't remember. And you're just kind of shell shocked with that. So that was the first thing. But the financial crisis, and my dad used to say, even the dot com, he said, this is not a bear market. This is euphoria. And he printed me up a chart, which I still have, and I still will give it to people, the cycle of emotions. And it holds true to this day. And different if you want to talk about down emotions, that's really, it's uncanny how accurate a lot of this human behavior is. So, but fast forward to that, I went. He said, you've never seen a true bear market. I said, well, when was last time there was a true bad bear market? He says, I don't know if it was 72, 73, or 73, 74. I was born, but I wasn't around. He goes, vicious. And, he said, yeah, the 87 crash. He goes, but that bear market was breathtaking. I mean, just breathtaking at that time. So the financial crisis was a whole different learning experience for me. I remember this, and this is one of the best lessons that I've ever had was, watching, markets come down. And yes, there were bear market rallies. Listen, I don't get in, people want to call bottom on whether it's TV, Twitter, whatever it is. I mean, I know there's trading. For me, I don't care. My job is, I don't say I'm a trader. I'm a full-time money extractor. That's all I do. So, I know what my job is. So to make a call, to be right or wrong, I don't care about the bigger picture. I feel sorry for people that have invested and et cetera. But the financial crisis, really for clients, just as a whole. I mean, I was short, but that's when they would hold stocks. You needed the uptick rule. I don't know if that was implemented then. Maybe it was. It was just you sat there and watched just the dismantling and from an aspect. My dad looked at me and he said, and we had a team around us. He said, our money at that time we were with, I believe it was Wells Fargo, Wachovia Securities, I believe, and he said we need to take the bulk of our money and spread around different banks. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, because we don't know who's going to go under next. And I was like, what? Here again, like .com, but here again, he goes, you're watching your first bear market. And he goes, and I was just like, Dad, I think, have you lost your mind? Like, move. He goes, no, because there's insurance. So we did it. And people were looking at us in the office like, and he's like, listen, he goes, I've seen it where, people, most clients and even advisors, they go, well, I said, my money's in money market. I said, well, money market is, it trades at $1. People don't know the function of how money market works. And it trades at $1. And my dad he would tell me the bad markets, a couple times they broke $1. And where people wouldn't have that cash, they would see their statement. And he said, but the government would come in, support that. So lo and behold, we did this, and I was just like, this is getting crazy. When you're breathtaking when you see, Bank of America go down to $2, Las Vegas Sands. I remember these days and watching American Express. I was like, what is going on? So I said, my dad, he told me, he goes, they're going to start printing money. And I didn't know the aspect of printing money. And, everybody knows it now. So he said, that's what they're going to do. They have to save the financial system, because he truly believed it's on the verge of unraveling. And everybody would laugh. He goes, you laugh, you'll be the last to know. And I was just like, holy cow, like, what do we do? And one of the things that I did learn then is I would buy stocks, but for me, I'm not a long-term, hey, I'm going to hold this forever. That's just not my mentality. A lot of people have made a lot of money, and I'm happy. It's just I'm a trader. I've always been a trader. So he would say, look at where the debt instruments, the bonds are trading. And I remember American Express. He goes, that's when stuff is in trouble. American Express is trading for 30 cents on the dollar. Goldman Sachs, I think it was 30, 40 cents on the dollar. I go, what's going on here? He said, if you're going to buy anything, buy bonds. He goes, because if stocks are by the wayside, you have these bonds, and he goes, they're going to start printing money. And that's right. That's what I did. I bought a lot of bonds. I ended up trading them, making great income. If I show you the list, you would just go, so it's little things when people would say Tesla's going to go under. They're going to go under. First thing I do is let me see how their bonds are trading. They're trading for 85 cents on the dollar. Back when I said, listen, they were trading at 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar. It might be a little concerned, but it's not telling you that, So, and by the way, I saw companies go out, like General Motors go under, but their bonds were trading for 20 cents on the dollar. And not only did you have the bonds, and they went back up to par where they matured, you're getting dividends. You got issued new shares after they took out the old shares. So it's I've been around so long that there's probably 5 to 6 companies I've seen them come public 3 times, and literally 3 times go private, come public, or go bankrupt. Come back, and they come back stronger. And I'm like, what kind of deal is this? So it was that was a learning experience. I mean, I was scared. He says, but once the government started printing money, he says, buy whatever you want. I said, what? But still, psychologically, I was on tilt. And clients, when you see accounts that were a $20 million account go to 2, and they want to, hey, I want out. And so here's another emotional decision, learning stuff for how they do things. But that was the basic foundation, and I'm glad I went through that. I mean, as horrific as it was, the dot-com to the financial crisis, very sad. People lost their jobs, and I don't wish anybody to lose money. I feel bad. I really am. I'm one of those, when someone makes a lot of money, Anthony, I'm so happy for them. I really am not jealous. I applaud them. That is so, I think it's amazing. And when people, blow up their accounts, it hurts me. It hurts me personally, because, I've had some bad blow-ups after I went on my own, and I knew I would survive, because I don't risk, where I'm going to lose everything. Nate says, has great advice. He says, you only have to get rich once. Am I rich? I don't know. Listen, who knows about that? But I can tell you, I didn't want to work. I don't have to work, but that's not. I love doing what I'm doing, and this is what I do. I'm not a flashy person. That's just not who I am. I've been trained very well by the Italian old man. So, but then the next education came. Later, probably in 2014, when I my dad retired. I guess it was 14 or 15. He retired, and I was tired of dealing with you know clients, and I was very blessed, and I, I can't say anything bad about that industry. However, I think it's broken as long as there's a bull market. I think because they're fee collectors and stay the long term and whatever, and I'm on a different path. I've been that way, and it was the best thing I ever did was once he retired. I didn't want to handle his book of business. I didn't want to keep. I wanted to be out, and I wanted to do this. This is what I felt was a natural, and I thought it would be easy, and it wasn't easy. It was. I was ahead of the game from the average person, but I go, there are some really great people out there. So, I think that was 2015, 14 or 15 when I shut everything down. I had a partner. I'm like, this is handle these clients. I'm done.
It's amazing that you had your father there and he was able to really show you like all of his experience that he had, and not just from the stock side, but what I think is also really interesting is just the breadth of knowledge that a financial advisor has over, say, purely just a stock trader, right? So when you're talking about like bonds or anything fixed income, like a stock trader who's just maybe looking at small caps, that might be a world entirely unknown to them. Whereas, your father and you having that knowledge and experience, you're able to sort of see the larger picture of what's happening in the market. And so, if it's okay with you, Russ, I kind of wanted to touch on that aspect as well. I know we talked about
Sure.
your trading, but I think it's also pretty fascinating to compare with you as like a financial advisor. And so, one of my questions is just from your perspective, what is the job description of a financial advisor, and how does that differ from what a trader does?
Um, well, as a trader, we're trying to whatever your style is. If you're a swing trader, if you're a day trader, I do both. I'm definitely more heavy on the day trading, and I can describe those processes whenever you want. As far as a financial advisor, it's a night and day. They don't have the tools. They don't have. If you want to get something that's a hard to borrow short, they have no capability. There's no direct market access. They sell their order flow, and they really don't want to charge commissions as far as financial advice. They want to charge the 1%, and they'll do a financial plan. But I've always known everything's great until the crap hits the fan. I still have a few friends, and I have different investments, outside. Some are very unique that have to do with different traders that I give money to, and I actually have a friend of mine that's a financial advisor, and I'm looking for something totally different, and he kind of knows what I like and what I want and how he does things. I let people take on their own thing. I don't. I look at it, but I don't. It's different from what I do, and so I'm primarily focused on me, and my internal happiness, the ability to trade. But yeah, there's not a lot of edge there as far as an advisor. The primary I tell my wife with her advisor said, when the market goes down, you'll get your standard email or letter. Hey, went for the long term. It's I said they don't want it. They don't want to trade. They have their process, and however they do things. I've had offers to get somewhat back into that industry, and I say thanks but no thanks. This is my coat and tie. This is how I am. Shorts, or I'm in New York. It's just the thing I do miss, Anthony, about that is, as there's I have Investors Underground, the chat room on, and there's people I talk to and that I've met. Well, I'm sure we'll get into Traders for a Cause, but I got to tell you, it's we were doing this way before COVID, having this bubble, and the thing I do miss, and I'm really going to try to work on this, especially this year going to Traders for a Cause. I'm going to try to work on kind of even meeting more people, especially when I'm in New York, because being by yourself, there is limitations. I don't care if someone's a rookie, and just to trade with a small group. I mean, I have some different ideas what I would like to do to get the energy of some young kids who've maybe been doing. They're just, excuse my language, badass traders, and I want to pick their brain, and I can give them the old man stories, but I'm not going to curtail their energy. I'm like, just be careful. And like I said, there's some great traders. I mean, their minds work totally different than mine, and I've had to adjust my style mentally because my mind is not the same. I'm not the pitcher. I don't know if I mentioned this when we talked on the phone. I am not the pitcher that can throw the fastball down the middle and blow it right by you anymore. I am the guy that had to learn how to pitch and pitch effectively and not rely on one pitch. So I found a niche, but I'm very good at the environment. When the environment changes, and I can see it when it changes. And however, to make a big call, that's not my thing. I don't get caught up in that, and I get very frustrated. One of my big pet peeves, and I talked to like Josh, and I talked to him quite a bit. We haven't talked in a while, but and we laugh. And listen, there's a lot of people that laugh at this when people say, having a tough time with this market. It's horrible. It sucks. It goes down all the time. I'm thinking to myself, that's your fault. And I mean it respectively. You have to figure out how to adapt to the, and I think that's the hardest thing. I can't teach my wife that. I can't teach. That's why I love for her to talk to my dad, because he can talk to her. Sometimes I can be a little abrasive in a nice way, because I'm totally different when I leave this. I'm a totally different person. I'm not on, but it's an excuse not to adapt to. It's your fault, and I'm always prepared, and the preparation I do every day is I'm very, very prepared. From the time I get up, I was never that way as a financial advisor. I mean, I'd come rolling in at 9 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I couldn't imagine being successful rolling in, on East Coast time, 30 minutes before the market's going to go up. I work harder. When I left that industry, I worked so much harder, but I enjoy it because I'm scared of failure. I've always been scared of failing, and I can't be outworked. There's smarter people, but I'll work just as hard. If they're getting up at 4, I'm going to get up at 3:45. It's just I like that aspect. It's a shame that I don't have where I can have a small group. And I know there's discords and all that. Listen, I'm focused on all this, and my eyes work a certain way, my mind works a certain way, and that's what I have to focus on instead of typing in something. I don't really participate in IU. You know, I probably should, but to sit there and then type in something what I'm thinking, it's just for me. I have to dial down all the noise, and there's times I can deal with the noise, and that's one of the things that got me into trouble. When I first started, went on my own and thought I got this, but I really didn't. And I think taking some big losses, which was very uncharacteristic for me, um, really changed. That changed me. It's not the .com. Seeing it, I learned, but the big losses changed me, um, to I think who I am now. You know, so
So, Russell, I know you mentioned Nate and Traders for a Cause. I'm curious how you first got involved with Traders for a Cause and how you met Nate and what that relationship has been like.
you know, um, I, 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 I think when I first after I started was on my own. I was even before when I was an advisor. I was on Twitter. I follow like, okay, who are some of the top people, and there was probably 20, 30 people. I just start following them and like, wow, and Nate used to years ago he'd post his P&L, and I was like anybody else, I'm sure you're like, whoa, that's kind of eye catching. I'm like, wow, okay. And I'm like, you know, is this guy legit? And because the P&L speaks for itself, and I know it's not everything, but there's always, I met someone that knew Nate and said, Nate thinks a different way. His mind works in a totally different way. I think he's a robot. I think the guy's from another planet, which is good because I definitely learned a lot, through his Sunday night YouTube, which are people are crazy if they don't watch it because there'll be something you get out of, and I've been in different rooms and respect a lot of there's a lot of good people, and I'm still trying to learn, always learning different things, and to incorporate it, another arrow in my quiver, and so then all of a sudden, a friend of mine who's a trader, I think the very first year he went to, I wasn't in IU then. He went to Traders for a Cause. I was like, hey, what's this? And he goes, it's out in Las Vegas. So I think the first year, I don't know if I went the first year. Um, it might have been the second year. And so I went. I knew one individual, Anthony, and I didn't care. I'm like, there's a group of people. I'm just going to get in there. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to talk. And who am I? I'm just going to listen. And I was so blown away, about the event. I had gone to a few other things. And it's like, it's kind of garbage. But Traders for a Cause is, I think there's nothing like it, and that I know of, that's such a premium event. And the amount, Nate, Zach, and the rest of the team, they put so much time and effort. I mean, it's truly unbelievable. And I think I think I've been a sponsor for the past, I don't know, maybe 6 years. I can't even remember. And so, one of the things that I enjoy is you get to meet so many people. And I think I'll invite someone to come, and someone will go, well, it's just IU people. And I said, it's such a misnomer, because I go, no, it's not. I said, there's IU people there. There's all different types of traders. I always say, time out. I said, you know what? I went out there knowing one person, and they weren't in IU, and I, I by the end of that trip, I probably knew 20 people and kept in touch, and talk styles. A lot were like just short traders, and I'm like, okay, I'm short. I like to short, larger cap, just more my comfort range, and I do get out of my comfort range even to this day. So I'm still trying to grow. Okay, maybe I'm not going to be like certain people, but I have to do that is for my mind. But I learned so much in the contacts, fantastic. And so I went the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and it's just, to me, the COVID year when we couldn't go and everything was on video, great, and that's when a lot of new traders were born. But I highly suggest, if someone has the opportunity, it's I took my wife. She's going to go this year, and she was my girlfriend. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. She went, and she was like, everybody's so nice, and just like, very welcoming, and it's a fun event. Whether you golf, I don't golf, but whatever you do, it's a fun bonding event that I wish there were more of those. I wish there was even smaller, little, maybe there's 30 people going to different events, that type of thing. Whether it's a ski trip, no matter what it is, just to kind of, because I would go to all of them, because, like I said, sometimes I feel like I'm on an island by myself, and it's mentally that aspect, it gets to you after a while. So, but yeah, I'm a big Traders for a Cause, and I've learned so much I always get one or two holy shit moments. I'm like, wow, that little bit, that one nugget pays for your trip on end of trip. So yeah, Nate will tell you, those guys will tell you, I'm a big supporter of them. Anything I can do for them, it's definitely.
Yeah, Traders for a Cause is amazing. I know the first time I went completely blew my mind. And as you mentioned, what blew my mind was that it wasn't just IU members there. There was people who were outside of the Investors Underground community that I met there and still get to keep in touch with. And it's for a great cause. Being able to give back is one of the most important things that we can do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
You
absolutely,
know,
highly recommend to
it's
everybody.
definitely, whether it's information, because I don't mind. I don't mind talking. I don't mind doing whatever I can. There's so many great speakers. I'm like, wow, wish I could speak like that. And but I generally, the about giving, and whether it's your time, and this has nothing to do with trade, with Traders for a Cause, or just a volunteering in general. you know, I think you get to the point, and I've been doing this so long. I've been so blessed. I mean, so blessed financially, just in so many different aspects. I feel like I'm one of the luckiest guys in the world. I really, really, it's from someone that they didn't think I was going to amount to much of anything as a kid having a learning disability. I said, I've come pretty far, and but to give back to something, whether you volunteer for something, it's I don't really need much as far as material things, but to give back, that feeling, um, you know, there's nothing like it. I can't. It's very euphoric. It's almost. Listen, I don't get. I can have a great six-figure day. I don't get that. I get excited, but you'll never see me jump up with joy. You'll never see me, even if you know, getting into a huge loss and how I've dealt with it emotionally. I may be down for a couple of hours. Tomorrow's a new day, and it has to roll off my back, and it will. Everybody handles that aspect different. That's one of the toughest things. And so, you know,
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about that? The importance, particularly talking about the ability to bounce back after a loss. Maybe you're down for a couple hours, like you said, but tomorrow is a new day. So Can you maybe talk a little bit about the importance of bouncing back and the importance of longevity in trading?
Yeah. So I, I can tell you. You do you remember? Were you trading when the whole XIV debacle happened?
Yeah, was
Uh,
that 2017 era?
I think so. I may have to go to a brain doctor again, but I, you know, there's, part of my trading is, I have usually one, two, three, could be four huge, outlier winners, and then it's for me. That's where I make the bulk of my money, and I do different stuff. I have three different styles, but anyways, I was swinging. I had a great year with XIV. I would play it. I could play it long and short. I was just had that ability. I had the feel. I built a relationship with stocks, and that's what I do. It sounds weird. Um, Someone says, "How would you describe yourself?" And I said, I am a two-sided stock trader, and in a relationship, I have relationships with stocks, and so I had XIV. I was playing it, and a lot of times I'd take it overnight. Sometimes build a position, and it was the day. I'd read. I knew the inner workings, how they're meant to, how they're a structured product, and how they're meant to go to nothing. And I totally understand. Very well aware of that. So I was building an overnight position probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was an XIV and SVXY, I believe. So same typical, products, how they worked. A lot of times I'd have them next to each other, and all of a sudden, about 3:20 in the afternoon, I I just saw SVXY just halted. There was no news, nothing. And it halted for 10 minutes for no reason. I'm trying to find, like, what's going on. So I just started building a position on XIV, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to start. It pulls a little bit in the morning. I would keep these sometimes overnight, maybe a day, not that long. It was primarily, an overnight, sometimes a day trade. So I said, yeah, I could pull a little bit. And that was where, I don't know if I was lucky, but there was sometimes I get sometimes there's the intuition that comes into play with me, that was weird. And I was on Twitter typing the symbol. I was going to Benzing. I was doing whatever. I'm like, no one mentioned this. So something, I started really, going into this position, and that happened. I said, you know what? Something's making me feel very uncomfortable. I can't, it was nagging me. I said, you know what? I'm going to sell, 3/4 of my position. And I ended up having probably, I don't know, it's probably 2,000 shares left. And then all of a sudden the bell hit. And this was something I had never seen before. And so here again, something new. You think you've seen everything, and it just unwound after the close. And I had a woman that's a trader. That was one of her bread and butters, and she's texting me like, "I was getting ready to go to the gym. What happened? I go, what do you mean?" And I was just like, I said, yeah, I have a small position. I mean, I had a couple thousand shares, 2,500, and that I paid 92, 93, and she goes, it's 42. I'm like, what? And so I didn't go to the gym, and I'm sitting there with my feet on the desk. I'm just watching. I'm like, okay, I know how to cut losses, but this is after hours. Like, this is it's unwinding. Like, this is over with. So then it would have, go down level. It would come up, and I said, you know what? I said, I'm out. So, listen, it wasn't the end all be all. I don't know what it was. If it turned out to be, $80,000 loss. In the grand scheme of things, it wasn't wasn't a big deal, but it was enough to me, like, and I wasn't mad because I would have been, my thing is, I would have been trading it long or short during after hours. And during after hours, I trade pre-market some, but, and it just screwed up my mentality. So I sold it. I didn't care what went up the next day. I took it off my screen. I didn't want to see it. And kind of the rest is history. I don't know if it went down to 8, 9, 12, and it had a vicious bounce. Even the next day, I don't want to see it because, mentally I was messed up. And but that was, and then I had a Bristol Myers trade, a swing trade long that a lot of times I read news, but I don't read. There's some great people out there who know, the drug companies, whether they have a poof they're coming out, or they have there's some announcement, and I had a lot of size on Bristol Myers. I said, I'm going to swing this for a day or two. I said, there's my kind of setup at the time, and the next morning or 2 days later, I said, also the news came out that their cancer drug, I don't know if it killed someone, or I was like, what? And it just dropped in the pre-market 30, 40 points. And like I said, I had a lot of size, and I was just sitting there. And half of my brain was like, there's so much opportunity to go trade this thing in pre-market in that day that I could have, made up my losses and then some. But I was so I was on tilt, and I was playing defense, and I like playing offense. And I was so, I was talking to friends. They go, it's a great company. I go, listen, I go back to what my dad always told me. It's a moving dot. I don't care if it's Bristol Myers. I don't care. I'm not an investor in that kind of stuff. I don't care. So I managed it well. I had a significant loss. I got out of it, but I didn't sell, on the opening. I waited. I did get a decent bounce. And I dealt with that part. I left. I just left my office. I said, you know what? I got to get out of here. I think everybody deals with that kind of stuff different. And I left. And the next day, my wife at the time goes, "Are you gonna go back?" I go, "Yeah, I'm gonna go back." And it wasn't. I don't get mad. I don't get. I was shocked. I was like, God, what a dumbass I am. But I didn't get mad. I was like, after a couple of days, I knew I couldn't watch it I couldn't watch it because that it'll prohibit me from taking any other trades. And I'm not a revenge trader where I want to make it back. I'll make it back, but maybe not on that trade. So here again, I just off my screen. I don't want them in the account. I don't want to deal with it. So, I mean, but it changed me how I started looking at certain things. I'm sure something else will catch me.
What would you suggest traders think about and maybe do so that they're not, just exacerbating a loss, trading on tilt? How would you recommend? What would you recommend to traders to just move on and take the next trade when the time is right, rather than just sit and dwell on something?
I think you need the right temperament. Okay. And yeah, when I say that, you have to control your emotions. I know it's easier said than done. And because if you don't, there's that revenge trading, and some people they'll become gamblers, and I'm going to get that back. But listen, there's a universe of so many different stocks. When you start revenge trading, I've had friends that do that, and they get themselves into trouble, and they'll lose so much money. And I go, just be done with it. It's and it's very hard for them, and ultimately they're out of the industry. So it's build your confidence back up. Don't have size. It's okay. Whether you're trading 100 shares, 500 shares. Don't believe. All I know is why I'm a technical trader, because they can come out. Their investment bankers will defend it. And that's their relationships and how it all works. I don't care. I'm getting it off of my books, out of my account, because I have to have my mindset, my mentally. I can't be on tilt. I have to go, and I'll be back, but I don't want to see it anymore. I just take it completely off my screen, and doesn't mean I won't come back to it. And by the way, friends would tell me it's a great company, and I used to tell them like 3 years later, it was still wasn't the price of the stock on Bristol Myers was not still where I even entered it. So your capital you're tying up. So it's a tough thing. You just have to. Sometimes some people need more time off. Some people. That's why for me, I don't. Some people are great at shorting low floats, and not my thing. I'm too old. But here again, I'll dabble. I might put something on just to get a feel, because I believe to get out of your comfort range, it's very important to grow. Because I heard Lance say on one of when you interviewed him, like when someone says, "I'm not good at this," and he goes, "Well, why not?" Like, why not? Why can't it be you? And I love that, because I will still just test something. Doesn't mean I'm going to bring it in my arsenal, but I want to test it, see, and I'll screw around with, especially if I'm traded in the morning, and sometimes I'll come, I'll be into something later on. But I like to dabble in it to see how I react. And everybody says I'm not good at that. I'm not good. I will tell you, I'm not good at longing, like micro caps, and it's just not my thing. It's just it's not my thing. But there's some great traders out there. Listen, they could probably show me a thing or two, or three or four items, and that might click for me. But there's it could be a capital raise. I mean, and I know a lot of them are garbage companies, and some of the guys, especially at IU, there's always a thing about you see people that even friends I know who have different aspects of trading, and they go, that stock's going down because those guys in IU they've been slamming, they're carrying the position home. I'm like, listen, you're not in there. That's not how the majority of the big traders, they don't do it that way. They don't have to put it in there. I know how they. I said, that's wrong. That is just wrong. That's not them. I go, there's a lot of. I think one of the things, as far as when someone has a big loss, turn off every piece of your tweet deck, your CNBC. To me, it's garbage. I'll turn it on. I've learned what works for me. During the day, I'll turn it on. And I might be a smart ass, have playful stuff. And maybe I should contribute more. Because I do get value of people posting their charts on there, different styles. And like, okay, I probably should contribute more. And maybe that's what I'm going to work on. But I'm so busy, how I do things now. But I do like to have a relationship with stocks.
Yeah. So, how would you describe your style now, Russ? And is that all part of your ability? Maybe that's part of your edge as well, to keep an open mind.
Definitely. I mean, part of my edge is to keep an open mind. And I, well, one of the things I started, I've done it for years, and I'll get away from it. But I've really, the last 3 or 4 years, like when we were talking, I don't know if this is recorded, when just a simple spiral maneuver. I mean, I've had to throw so many away since the 90s. I mean, and what I do is I put in there, my mood, my well-being that day, the time of day. I do put my trade plan in there. Sometimes you got to call an audible. I think it was last week when, right, Coinbase, throttled up. I go, oh, this is like, I'm going to get on the right side of that V. And I break my time frames up, for me, because I'm visual. So I have a daily, I use a 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute, and 30 minute, because I see the whole snapshot for me, and I see it. And I understand if something's in a downtrend, been around, long enough to know it's in a downtrend, but I just look like of areas of interest. And I do have a set plan. If it goes against me, I'm selling it, and so I put everything possible, my game plan. When a trade doesn't work for me, I mean, I could give you my trades and you say, well, Anthony, pick me apart. And I know what I did wrong, but you may tell me, or anyone else may say, why don't you look at this? And it's those little things that I try to get from people. Listen, I'm not, one thing about, and I refer back to Nate, like I said, there's so many good traders. Really, his mind's uncanny how he thinks. I've got so many good, from his videos, just really good stuff that's really reiterated, stuff that used to work, that for different traders, and they're still set in these same ways that don't work anymore. And I put the times when I fail. And so, but I basically have 3 different accounts, and I trade. I do some swing trading. Swing trading is, to me, it's I enjoy. It's probably more stressful than day trading for me now. What I used to be the other way around. A swing trade. In my swing trading, it's a little bit different. I'll play. It took me a while to really, really come up with this. It's not when I say hard, I mean, there's nothing easy. It's hard, but I try to, when, people like Lance talks about the V, which is very important. What I try to do in the big picture of stocks, the big theme pictures, whether it's the COVID stocks are a prime example. If someone goes back and looks at, DocuSign, Moderna, BioNTech, it doesn't matter what it is. Zoom, I'm just throwing a handful of names out. I mean, COVID was still around. Everybody's like, I'm worried about COVID. They topped out. I mean, you can clearly see they were parabolic, and you can clearly see. So I call it a 2-sided trade, a relationship trade. I will go long those in a swing account, and my best swings are from anywhere from an overnight to 3 or 4 days. Over 7, horrific. I mean, I'll trade, but that's my niche. On the way up, and listen, when they halt it, I don't try to pick the top. That's way too, years ago, but that's just not for me. And then when that whole theme wears out, and I don't care if the analysts still be positive, the news is positive, you turn on CNBC, and I use Twitter and CNBC as a contrarian, and I use a few other things as an emotional contrarian thing. And if you just look at the patterns, and I don't care how positive, I don't. This is where the fundamentals, people might say, you're looking at I look at fundamentals, but I don't look at it. Because when there's so much rotation from it, to me, the algorithms, when they really go away from something, they just forget about them. Yeah, there's intermittent rallies, but I will put pieces on a swing trade where I'll glance at it, but I don't look at it like I'm trying to day trade. And so you just see the gains compound, whole separate account. And listen, it makes a cake. You're trying to make the cake, and the day trading pays my bills, but that makes the cake. And when you start looking at that, and I'll play it long, and when they start halting it on the upside, I'll stay away from it, and I'll just wait. And everybody talks about the backside. I wait for the backside of a swing trade, And I won't start, listen, to me, you don't have to have a lot of shares. Not like when I'm day trading. I may start something with 500 shares. And, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Cause I know I may be right about the move, but then I'll just add, get a feel. And then all of a sudden that whole sector's, it doesn't matter. It could be COVID plays. It could be, you know, EV plays. Yeah, they've been hot now, but they just fell apart. Other than Tesla, Tesla is one of my primary where I day trade that long and short. I'm very unbiased. I don't really care but I'm very unbiased when it comes to that. But as far as that, I love to sit there and just add positions, and you'll see the gains compound. You can really build an account that you're not going to get so stressed. As long as you don't listen to CNBC, I've gotten where I can tune it out. I've gotten where I can tune the news out. Someone put a buy, or their earnings are coming out. Yeah, and earnings still screw me up. If I have a big lead, I'll pare back. I'm not going to sit there and write everything down. I take profits. I use support and resistance, and that's what I use. That's one style. I play that long and short. It's a whole different thing. I've been doing some of that, but as far as long right now, nothing. I trade a lot of ETFs in that, levered ETFs, but I will scale into stuff like that.
Yeah, and I know you had said that keeping an open mind is definitely an edge for you. What would you say, though, Russell, would you consider to be your greatest strength as a trader?
Taking losses is my greatest strength. Taking losses. When I go into a trade, I do have a game plan. Probably have a little more wider if I'm swinging something. As far as day trade, I go in there. I go, this is what I'm going to lose. This is how much I'm going to lose. It's a lot of people going, okay, I'm going to make this. Every trade I go in is how much am I going to lose? That's the first thing. I have a plan how I'm going to scale out or how I'm going to get out always. And but that right when I look at something, where's my probabilities? How much am I going to lose? Some people don't look at it that way. I do. So taking a loss, it rolls off my back because I'm never going to ride something up, down. I just don't do that. I'll cut it and that's it. I'm very good about it. And I don't get mad, slam computers. I'm an emotional person. I think I mentioned that maybe on the phone. I'll cry. I got married recently. I cry, give a speech. I'm a crier. I'm very emotional. But when it comes to money and stocks, I'm very unemotional. My strength is I will adapt to the environment. And, once you see the environment, you adapt. And that's where I think a lot of the COVID people, quite frankly, and I'll touch on the psychology whenever you want, but quite frankly, that's what people, it takes experience to recognize that AMC is not working. That's one of my relationship stocks, long, but listen, I play it long, yesterday was Bed Bath and Beyond short, and I'll play those in AMC. It's the gift for me that keeps on giving. I don't care what the CEO. I just don't care. I just look at there's things I look at, and that for me, because my brain doesn't work the same way, and I really really know that I have to simplify things, for me to make it what the system that works for me.
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
It's hard telling someone that, hey, try my system. I can tell them this is what I did. However, they may say why, what, or where, and that's fine. That's fine, but they may show me something, and I'm willing to adapt. I'm willing to try that. Hey, thanks for the advice, because there's always like I said, I'm very open-minded to trying new styles. I mean, I used to have a lot of, moving average lines and indicators. I mean, as far as I join trends. I use on day trades, VWAP, support and resistance, and I keep it very simple. Try to keep it very clean. That's not how I did things 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, and it just what works, for me. I mean, this year's been the TQQQ, SQQQ. I go long SQQ, short SQQ, and for me, those kind of plays. I mean, one of the things I enjoy for me, because there's so much news, we're inundated with the Twitter feeds, and sometimes I press it, I just get out of that, and I'll come back on later, and I don't have to think about is there something coming out from this small cap where I get hammered or they'll squeeze. So for me, the more I can focus on a trade and less on everything else. And like I said, I respect so many guys out there who do, they're going to raise money. They need this. And listen, I see enough information. The information is so abundant as it wasn't, 25 plus years ago. Like, I mean, this is heaven. But I do also think there's too much information, and there's, what do they say? Analysis by paralysis. And so I don't, when I always tell someone, if a young person, if you can't tell me the reason why you took a trade in 10 seconds or less, don't take it. Don't take the trade.
One of the things that I really like is, like you had mentioned, your strength is your ability to cut a loss and be okay with it. I think a lot of people, myself included, can benefit and incorporate that into our trading style, and also to
Right.
keep an open mind, especially someone like you. You've been around so many different markets, traded and profited, and year after year, to be able to still keep an open mind rather than just solidify your way of thinking, I think really speaks to your level of maturity as a trader and a person. So I think that's really helpful, and that can benefit a lot of people out there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always a pretty open person. I mean, I know I've asked individuals I don't know on Twitter, send them a DM and ask them, hey, maybe some questions. Well, if you can't figure that out, smart ass answer. And I always embrace anybody who's struggled or I've been there and that wants to talk. And I saw an individual today on Twitter that he got caught in a short squeeze, and you know what? Some people gloat about it, and it quite frankly, it pisses me off because we've all been there. I feel for people. I don't know their financial situation, and anything I can do to help, they can DM me. I'm at the point in my life where I'll learn something from them.
Russell, I'd love to be able to go through like a rapid fire round of questions with you, if that's okay.
Ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Quick answers, quick questions.
Fire away.
Great. So, what would you say is the best piece of trading advice that you ever received?
Save your money. And this goes back a long time. Save your money and pay your taxes.
Another question I had was, how do you recover physically and mentally from a stressful day of trading?
I usually go work out. Sometimes it's 5:30 in the morning. When I'm in New York, I try to go work out at 6 with my wife. She's very avid, and kind of relax.
And when you're trading, do you tend to use hard stops or mental stops?
I use mental stops unless I'm going to be on an airplane because I've actually been, tried to sell something and, Wi-Fi goes out and you're like, what is going on? So not a good idea. However, I use mental stops and I'm adamant about it. I don't care. There's no excuse. I can always go back and in a trade, a different trade, the same trade. I, but if someone's not disciplined, I'm very, very disciplined. Very. And if someone's not disciplined, or they're going to go, some people put hard stops in because they're going to go work out, and and I respect that. And I'm like, well, maybe I should do more of that. But I stick to it, and I'll never deviate. I don't turn a day trade into a swing trade because because it's an apple. I just don't do that. I don't, I don't get mad. It's just the way it is. It's just part of the process, to get paper cut. And so it's fine.
Do you have any general financial advice for traders, particularly if a trader has done well in the past few years?
Yeah. Here again, I go back to, save your money. It's okay I really do believe in rewarding yourself. I appreciate that. I think everybody deserves a reward, whether it's a nice trip, whether it's, if someone's into buying Lamborghinis, go for it. I mean, it's not my thing. When I was younger, I used to buy a lot of cars. If you can get your home paid off, your vacation home, do smart things with your money. But I understand when you're young and you want to travel, and that's great. There's life goes fast. But wire money out, and I think sometimes the more money you make, I always appreciate when Nate says it. Once you get rich, it only takes one time, and the people that lose everything because they want to, if their net worth is $1 million, $5 million, $100 million, whatever it may be, and then they get cut in half. The mental aspect of that, it is. I've never been through that. It is. You know what? It's going to be tough. So yeah, I would say, be prudent, and I go back to saving your money. Do smart things with your money. Don't take all your profits and go into crypto, and that's just like I said. I dabble in that stuff, but this is my bread and butter. This is it, and try to surround yourself by other traders. Like if you can physically do it, I mean, because really and truly, I would love to find someone in New York or Tampa that I don't care if they've been doing it for 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a year or so, and maybe they're going to show me something. Because I think the energy, sometimes it's a lonely job. We get down and take a break from it. On the weekends, one of the things I'll start looking at some charts on Sunday, but I'm not going to turn on and look at a chart all weekend. And I enjoy, I'm a football lover. I'm a big Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had my season tickets for 30 years. And, I'm a big Tom Brady lover. So
that's my next question.
What was it?
If he tried, how good of a trader do you think Tom Brady could be, and why?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think his mentality is he's got that. There's only a few athletes from what I see. I'm very good friends with a lot of head coaches in the NFL. A lot. I remember when they were assistants. Some, one just won the Super Bowl, and they're young. And I think a lot of them, and I was with, just recently, there's 3 or 4, and I remember they are all together, and they're all just same thing. They all just started out like a trader, trading on Robinhood, and they just worked their way. And it's. I think a lot of them will be very good. Tom Brady, I think would be really good because I think, you just put your mind to something. I think when people doubt you, I was always, doubted when I was young, even by my dad, and he always says, you surprised me, but there's something that fuels your fire.
And the last question I have for you, Russell, is how can people get a hold of you and contact you if they want to talk with you?
They can, if they send me a direct message, a DM on my Twitter, I will get back, because I've had many people and who've had hard times, and I've seen them on Twitter. I'll call them up, I'll talk to them, because I feel for them. I feel like that's part of who I am.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Russell. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. We got through a lot. I think there's
Yeah,
a
we did.
lot that people can learn from listening
So
to you.
I kept you for a long time, so it's
No,
sorry about that.
no,
When I get on a roll, I mean, I
it,
can.
it's been a pleasure for me. I can listen to you talk all day. I really appreciate it. You've got decades, literally, of experience that you can pass along to traders out there, and I think all traders would be smart to just listen.
Yeah, and I listen to them too. I do listen to them, because I get, they may get something out of it from me. I'll get a lot out from them, and I don't care how long they've been doing it. That's one of the things I truly, truly enjoy. I mean, I really do. So I'm just trying to pass it along, um, because it's provided me with one hell of a living, and I keep going and try to meet new people, and we're different. We're weird. I mean, we have our own weirdness as a trader, and only traders, whether you're part time, full time, however, we're an odd group, and so that's what we do. And so we understand a lot of the stuff that someone's going through. You know, if their family members aren't supportive of them, I'll be supportive of them. So.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification bell. Thanks for watching.